The year is 2028. The central hub of baseball is in a region that we thought was more likely to not have any baseball played in it at all than to have it dominate. There is one consensus GM that everybody agrees is the greatest in history, plus the way farm systems are built has changed forever. And the start to all this craziness can be traced to 1 week in 2024. MLB trade deadline season is one of the most exciting moments of a long 162-game, 6-month regular season. It's a time where your team can redeem itself from the failures of their prior off-season performance, or blow the team up when it's clear that their core has reached its ceiling. The deadline has led to some wild moments. For example, the Cubs trading their Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez core, or when the Dodgers went all in and acquired Shore Hall of Famer Max Scherzer and perennial All-Star Trey Turner. So in 2024, when the deadline was highlighted by the names Jack Flaherty and Tanner Scott, good players don't get me wrong, but not exactly household names. You would think such a deadline wouldn't really change this year's October and would surely be insignificant to the future of baseball as a whole, but I am here to tell you that cannot be further from the truth. One team that didn't get the memo that this deadline will be a quiet one was the San Diego Padres. With owner Peter Seidler recently passing away and the team dealing superstar Juan Soto, many thought the days of the Friars acting so aggressively was over. Though this deadline and the past 4 months in particular have proved that this was not the case. In acquiring Dylan Cease, Luis Arias, and Tanner Scott, GM A.J. Preller dealt 12 of the team's top 15 prospects, and being that Arias and Scott were former Marlins, 3 of their top 10 prospects came via San Diego trades. And while San Diego is clearly the better team in 2024, this will not be the case in 2028. Because when I say Miami got a haul this deadline, I mean they got a haul in just 4 trades alone. Miami acquired a guy hitting .325 with 28 bombs, an offensive powerhouse catcher, a top prospect from the Orioles treasure chest, and a pitcher who is now the second best prospect they have in their system, just to name a few. Pair that with rookie phenom Xavier Edwards, Kyle Stowers, and a pitching staff loaded with talent, and you get a contender that will help the state of Florida dominate for days. And when I say the state of Florida, I don't mean just Miami, because in St. Pete, they are cooking something special. With the Rays right in the thick of the wildcard race, many people were surprised to see the front office sell at the deadline. Not only did they not add, they traded fan-favorite players that will be Tampa legends forever. And while many pundits will tell you that the Rays were being their usual selves, always thinking about the future, acquiring assets, these moves have a deeper cause than you think. The Rays play in the consensus second-worst ballpark in baseball. And finally, after proposal after proposal, the Rays reached a new deal to build themselves a new place to call home. With the Tropicana Field lease being up in 2027, the Rays are expected to move into the new place in 2028. And because of this, I believe the Rays had to move on from Randy Arozarena and Isaac Paredes. Coincidentally, Randy and Isaac's contracts both expire right before that 2028 season. And to lose both your fan-favorite players right before your grand opening would be a nightmare in the quest to attract fans to your new park. With this in mind, the Rays knew they need to come off of 2027 with a pre-ushered new era instead of the gloom and doom that comes along with the early years of a reset. With that in mind, trading Randy and Isaac shouldn't come as such a surprise, as it was more of a damage control move than giving up. And Rays fans should be optimistic. One fan base that doesn't have to wait until 2028 to have optimism are the fans in Baltimore. After the 2018 season, the Orioles hired Mike Elias and Sid Mejdal from the Astros to help retool the farm system and bring the club back to the promised land. So far, Elias and co. have done just that with the top farm system for the past 4 years now, including the best prospect in all of baseball 3 years in a row. In just 5 years of employment, Elias drafted players have already picked up 4 All-Star appearances, first and second place finishes in Rookie of the Year voting, and a 101-win best record in baseball finish. Mike Elias has already built one incredible reputation, but the thing he is truly missing is a real risk move. Though Mike has had a historic amount of draft success, Getting out of his comfort zone and dealing top-ranked prospects for players best fit to help the team win today is a task that Elias has not had to complete. Though if he ever did complete such a task, it would put him right there in the conversation for the greatest team builder of all time. With this trade deadline, Elias finally took his high-risk swings, giving Miami top prospects Connor Normie and Kyle Stowers for young starter Taylor Rogers, and swallowing Eloy Jimenez's contract to add him to the team. Rogers started his career with a bang, an early All-Star appearance, though since then his fastball went from 95 to 93, and with the dip of speed came a massive dip in production, his ERA going from 2.64 to the high fours. Eloy Jimenez as well, a former top slugger prospect, has not been able to stay healthy, and when he has been healthy, hasn't produced much. If these trades fail, and Norby or Stowers end up being stars, Elias' legacy will be ruined forever. But if he can get these two young players back on track, he will forever be known as one of the greatest team builders ever. Speaking of team building, Mike Elias and the Orioles have been a great example of how throughout baseball history, the best way to bring a garbage team to the promised land was predominantly through tanking and getting a high draft pick. But due to the new rules, not anymore. With the new MLB draft lottery, not only do bad teams now face long odds to receive the draft picks that used to be handed to them, but they also cannot win a top pick in consecutive years if they are a large market team or paid into revenue sharing. Those teams also can't pick earlier than 10th in back-to-back years. Due to this change, teams have shifted their strategy, with the draft no longer awarding the worst teams with the top talent like they used to. Teams have shifted strategies to try to acquire as much talent as they can at the deadline. This led to some lopsided trades, with nobody complaining more about the prices their team had to give up than fans of the Houston Astros. Similar to the Orioles, the Astros went from a 100-loss team to a dynasty, thanks to the drafting and developing by Mike Elias. The Astros, with All-Stars and future Hall of Famers galore, went on to appear in 7 straight ALCSs and 4 World Series, in which they won half of them. This dynasty will be remembered forever, though with the loss of numerous key players and executives, plus no longer having top draft picks due to all their success, it seems that the Astros' days of dominance are soon to be over. With that in mind, the Astros enter the season with a sense of urgency to capitalize on the last years remaining with this core. Though the Astros started the season miserably, they have since caught up to the first-place Mariners. Though with losing 5 quality starters to injuries, it was ever apparent that pitching needed to be acquired by the deadline. Enter Yusei Kikuchi, a former All-Star starter having a bad year, with a 4.75 ERA is available. And although Toronto was asking for an exorbitant amount, GM Dan Brown knew that the time was now to muster any World Series they could out of this core. And with that, in a move that shocked the baseball world, the Astros sent their 2nd and 6th best prospects, insane amount of value, in exchange for Yusei Kikuchi. The Blue Jays scored big with this deal, and although some teams like Toronto or Miami took advantage of the market, some bad teams are too incompetent to even do that. Meet the Chicago White Sox and Los Angeles Angels, the worst team in history next to the most disappointing one. Since 2019, the White Sox have featured a whopping 4 top 10 and 9 top 50 prospects in all of baseball from their farm system, only to fail to develop nearly all of them. To have that amount of talent in an organization is something most clubs can never dream of, and despite all of that, the Southside Club has developed into a dumpster fire that, thanks to the new rules, cannot claim a top draft pick. The Angels, on the other hand, succeeded in developing one Mike Trout, a man with one of the greatest resumes in MLB history, and Shohei Ohtani, modern-day Babe Ruth. That man will go down as the baseball GOAT. With stats and talent like these two, surely this Anaheim team would have at least multiple playoff appearances. Well, no. Not only have they not won a single playoff game with Mike Trout, with Ohtani, they've never even sniffed the playoffs, staying perfectly mid throughout their tenures. And due to this failure by the Angels, Shohei left to the Dodgers, creating the perfect opening to trade Mike Trout and start over. Though unfortunately for Angel fans, team owner Art Moreno loves watching the fans suffer. He continues to refuse to truly start over and build a contender that his fan base deserves. after he wasted Trout and Otani's careers. And although he traded his closer, Luis Rengifo, Taylor Ward, and Tyler Anderson inexplicably remain on the team. Likewise, in Chicago, even with a glaring opportunity to find players to possibly not strike out on in a Garrett Crochet or Luis Robert trade, Chicago decided to possibly hurt the team for years to come and not trade either. Although some would say not trading Garrett Crochet was not their fault, being that right before the deadline, Crochet announced he would not play this postseason without a contract extension prior. While many stuck up for Crochet and praised the move, many experts deemed it as an unnecessary hit to his value on the market. And now he gets to rot on a team that not only failed with the last generation of prospects, has failed to get a head start with that method to get top talent of the future.